My friends, okay guys, I have a super emotional video for you guys. Okay, if you're new to the channel, you might not know this, but I'm a cancer survivor. And I'm actually at the hospital where I survived my cancer. And I'm very scared of it. I've never gotten over having cancer. It's something that's always bothered me. I had 6 tumors before they were all removed and finally done. So I have this fear of it coming back. But I'm here at the hospital, and I think that going in and seeing where I used to live and stuff like that, I think it might help me a bit. And on my channel, I try my best to be a great influence, and I try to show people that if you are scared of something that isn't going to hurt you, go and do it. You know, if you're scared of heights, go to a observation deck. You know, try to face your fears, because that's the only way that you're going to get rid of them. Either way, guys, right now I am at Toronto General Hospital, and this is where I survived my cancer. And I would like to take you inside, and I would like to show you the atrium, and while we're in there, I'm going to tell my cancer story. So if that's something that you're interested in, if you want to see me probably cry, continue to watch this video. Guys, I never ask you guys to watch until the end, but if you really want to get to know me, if you really want to get to know what I went through while I was here, it might make you think differently about me. I will tell this story with all of the graphic detail, but however, I'm not embellishing anything. Everything in this story happened. So guys, let's go into the hospital and face our fears. So everyone, this is the lobby. This is where I would come down from the elevators and say goodbye to my parents when they drove back into town. Yeah, I spent a lot of time here. There used to be a Starbucks right there, but it's gone. Guys, let's go up to the atrium and we'll have a chat. Okay, we're heading to the atrium. This is where I start to get emotional. It's been tough. Okay, my friends, I'm here. I think the waterworks are gonna start. Wow, it's crazy to be in here. You know what, last time I came in here, I just immediately started crying, but I'm feeling good. Let me find a spot where I can talk to you guys, and I'll tell you my story. Okay guys, I found a place to sit. Let me tell you what happened. So when I was young, when I was about 17 years old, I had a really bad pain, and I thought it was my wisdom teeth. I thought my wisdom teeth needed to be pulled out, and I was switching dentists at the time, and I went to my dentist, and he was brand new, and I said, listen doctor, you need to give me pain medication because I'm in serious pain. And he said to me, listen, I don't prescribe heavy medication on the first visit. Let's get an x-ray. And I'm like, yeah, no problem, get an x-ray. And he came back into the room, and his entire demeanor changed. He looked like a ghost. He looked like he saw a ghost. And he comes in and he says, hey, listen, you have a tumor in your face. And I'm like, what? And he feels my face here, and he feels it here. He's like, you don't feel this? And I felt it, and I realized that I had like a big lump. You can still kind of see it, but it's plastic surgery now. So, but it was all swollen here. So he said, yeah, you have a tumor in your face. It needs to be removed immediately. So he wrote me a referral to Princess Margaret, which is Canada's #1, I think it's North America's #1 cancer hospital, right? So I went there, and they took it out. You know, they took it out. They had to remove all of these teeth to get to it. That was frustrating, but luckily the first tumor, it wasn't cancerous. It had no cancer. It was just a benign cyst. But the problem was, about 3 months later, another one came up, and I had to get a surgery. And then 5 months later, another one would come up, and none of them were cancerous, right? But it just kept happening, right? And then on the fifth time I got a tumor, it was big, like it was aggressive. and it was cancerous. It was. I got my tests and everything like that, because at that time I was going to the hospital with my mom twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. I had to come all the way down to Toronto and get tests and stuff like that, so they were on top of things. Either way, they found out it was cancer, and the tumor had it started in my sinus, and it completely destroyed my orbital bone. A bunch of my orbital bone was missing. That's why I have these scars. You want to know how I got these scars? That's why I have these scars, because my entire orbital bone had to be removed, and they took a big piece of my shoulder out and they put it in to replace it. So that time it was devastating for me, because my face was now being completely ruined. Before, the only problem was my teeth, right? But if I close my mouth, nobody can see my teeth. Now my whole face was getting deformed, and it was really scary for me. Either way, that recovery was absolute hell. Most of my recoveries, I had the surgery, I was in the hospital for a day or two, and I left. But after my major cancer surgery, I was in the hospital for months. And I recently found out from my sister that my surgery took 17 hours. That's insane. You know, that's absolutely insane. I never knew how long it was, but I would have guessed maybe 8 hours, but 17 hours. My God. Either way, before the surgery, one of the things that was happening was I was unbelievably thirsty. And before the surgery, if you guys have ever had a surgery, you know that you're not allowed to drink water or have food for 24 hours before. And this was very, very tough for me, because I drank a lot, you know. And so the first thing I said was, listen, when I wake up from this cancer surgery, please just have a pitcher of water right beside it, right beside me in my bed, so I can have water the moment I wake up, because I'm thirsty as hell. And they said, yeah, no problem. And I went through the surgery. When I woke up, I said, where's my water? And they said, listen, you're not getting any water. You can't have water for an entire week. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, because of the reconstruction surgery that we did in your mouth, we had to remove the entire, the top plate of your mouth, the roof of your mouth. They said that they had to remove the whole thing and basically glue it back on. And they said that if I drank any liquids, that it could affect the adhesive that was keeping the roof of my mouth together. So I said to them, I was furious, right? And I said to them, well, how the hell am I going to drink? They said, you can't. We're going to do it intravenously. So you'll get your liquids intravenously, but you won't be able to drink for a week. And I got to tell you, that was the worst kind of torture you could ever put somebody on. After about 3 days of not drinking water, that's when you would die, you know, normally if you weren't on intravenous. But after 3 days of not drinking water, it's unbelievably hard to swallow anything, because there's no liquid in your body anymore, or at least in your mouth. It's unbelievably hard to do anything, and it was the worst torture that I've ever gone through. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. It was absolute hell. It was absolute hell. The only way that I could get any liquids in my mouth was my nurse would come, and there was these, if you've ever been in a hospital, you know this, but they have these like cotton swabs that have a little sponge on the end of them. And what she would do is she'd dip it in water, and I would stick out my tongue, and she would just dab my tongue with it. It was hell. So that was my hell week, you know. But once I got through that, I remember my best friend Kev, he came and he brought me my favorite apple juice. And I remember the moment I was allowed to drink again, I pounded back that apple juice like crazy. Oh my Lord. Thank you, Kev. I really appreciate that. The next little while was not fun. I had a feeding tube, I had a catheter. Luckily I didn't have like a colonoscopy bag, but I was hooked up. I was like a machine, you know. I had IVs in both my arms, a nose, a feeding tube, and a catheter. So I had wires and stuff coming out of me all over the place. And during my time in the hospital, the first 2 weeks I wasn't allowed to get out of bed. Um, I wasn't allowed to get out of bed. My nurses would come and run me. They would run my legs for me, but there's sirens going on outside. Of course, I'm at the hospital. Um, I didn't like not being able to get out of bed. So one night when I finally thought that I had the strength to do it, I turned over and I tried to step out of my bed. And when I stepped out of my bed, I stepped on the catheter tube. And then I didn't realize that I had stepped on the catheter tube. And then I took a step and it tugged on it. And oh my Lord, it was hell. It was absolute hell. And so the nurses had to come and bring me back. But there was even a time during this where I honestly thought I was going to die. What happened was I didn't have any saliva in my mouth because of the surgery, right? But mucus still develops. Even though you don't have any liquids, you still have mucus develop. And I developed this piece of mucus on the side of my feeding tube, but it was like all the way down here in my throat. And it kept sticking to the side of the wall of my esophagus. And the only way that I could get mucus out is I had like a dentist suction tube, and it was long. It was a long tube. It was probably like 10 inches long. And that day, I spent the entire day sticking that thing all the way down my throat, trying desperately to get that piece out because I was choking on it, right? And I did this for hours and hours and hours, and I didn't stop, and I just tried to get it, and I could not get it. And it got to the point where I did it for so long that I was literally falling asleep. I was exhausted from doing it. I was literally falling asleep, and I had an unbelievably bad panic attack because I thought that if I couldn't get it, I thought that if I did fall asleep, I would choke to death. And it was horrific. I don't know if you guys have ever truly felt like you were about to die, but it's a terrifying feeling. So I ran to the front desk, I hobbled over to the front desk, and I tried to explain to them what was going on, but I was having a bad panic attack, so I couldn't articulate myself at all. And they sedated me, and they put me back in my bed. And in my sleep, exactly what I thought would happen happened. And I choked on my feeding tube. And it was horrific because I woke up and I realized I was choking. I pressed the emergency button and stuff. And a feeding tube, I don't know if you guys know this, but it's not just stuck up your nose, it's stitched into your nose. That's why I have stitches down here. It's stitched into your nose. And basically I was choking on this thing, and the doctor came in and he said, and now keep in mind, I had just woken up. So the doctor came in and he said, Kai, this is going to really hurt a lot, so be prepared for this. And he put my head back and he took the feeding tube and he just pulled it out. And oh my God, was that painful. Right when he pulled it out, I threw up all over myself, all over the bed. It was awful. But that was the end of the horrific things that happened. For the rest of the time that I was here, I basically just lied in bed, watched the Toronto Blue Jays. I actually fell in love with baseball here because before I had cancer, I didn't know that the Blue Jays had such a long and busy schedule. So when I was in the hospital, I didn't know what I was going to do. So I found a love for baseball, and I realized that the Blue Jays played basically every day. And that's something that I could look forward to every day, even though I was in the hospital going through these horrible things. Basically every day I knew that I could go watch the Jays at the end of the game, at the end of the day. So I just want to say thank you to the Toronto Blue Jays organization. You guys really helped me get through my cancer, and that was huge, and I really, really appreciate it. Thank you, Toronto Blue Jays. I really appreciate it. Yeah, it was a rough time for me, but you know what? The last time I came here and told this story, I was crying, and this time I'm not. And I really think that I'm finally starting to get over it. at least able to deal with it. Well, guys, that was my story. I hope you enjoyed. If you know somebody who has cancer, maybe share this with them. It will get better. Things get better. Technology has advanced greatly. Either way, guys, thank you for listening to my video. I really, really appreciate you. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.